Welcome back, everyone. Today we're doing an artist spotlight on a figure who has just fundamentally refused to be defined. She's building a bridge between two musical worlds that, well, most industry watchers still treat as completely separate. We are talking about KJ.
Yeah, and it's more than just crossing over. It's a full-on merger. We're going to be dissecting how she seamlessly fuses the high-octane energy of EDM with the deeply narrative, lyrical honesty you expect from classic country music.
She's an artist with this really surprising dual identity, known simply as KJ in the dance world. But if you trace her storytelling roots back, you find Catherine Jackie.
Exactly, and our notes confirm she doesn't just dabble in both. She has integrated them into a singular artistic statement.
And if you've heard her tracks, you understand why she earned that hard-won title, Queen of the Drop.
But the real story here isn't just about the massive sound. It's about the underlying architecture of resilience, of integrity, and this fiercely independent ownership that just defines her entire career path.
Exactly. So our mission in this artist spotlight is to trace that emotional truth, to understand the surprising history that fuels her sound and figure out what it really takes to be independent in today's music industry. Okay, so let's unpack the origins.
We really have to start at the beginning with the foundational moments. Because this backstory, it immediately separates her from anyone who sees music as purely a commercial venture. Her musical life didn't begin with a choice to have a career.
No, it started as instinct, as a refuge.
Right.
The emotional cornerstone, according to our notes, is this really powerful visual. Her childhood in the backseat of a car, driving down the Pacific Coast Highway, singing along to the Eagles Hotel California with her mother.
Wow.
That connection, the classic rock, the maternal bond, the endless motion of the PCH, it established music so early on as truth, as a necessary outlet.
And what's essential to recognize there is that this emotional grounding, it quickly required rigor. She didn't stay on the PCH forever. She immersed herself very early in performance arts, taking on roles that were sometimes glamorous, sometimes not so glamorous.
That was her apprenticeship, really. It wasn't about fame. It was about learning discipline, learning stagecraft.
And that discipline became a survival mechanism. As she moved into early adulthood, she spent time traveling across the country young. That kind of environment is a crucible. It replaces the fantasy of show business with the reality of hard work. Resilience wasn't a choice for her. It became essential.
And you can hear that in her music today. If we look at the philosophy she applies to her sound, it becomes so clear how those early roots matter. She actually defines her music as confrontation and clarity.
She translates real life. I mean, the raw experience of loss, joy, collapse, and then rebirth into a sound that, in her own words, doesn't allow hiding.
That is a tough posture to maintain, especially in high-gloss electronic music.
Very difficult.
It provides the anchor, though. The country influence gives it that storytelling foundation, and the EDM provides the energy to deliver that confrontation. But that fearfully independent truth-telling spirit, it came at a massive cost when she finally started hitting her stride.
And this is where we have to shift. We shift from the artist's foundation to the reality of the business. What does it truly mean to operate as an independent artist today? It means you bear the intense weight of the business side. All of it.
You have to balance this all-consuming creativity with the administrative tasks. Licensing, distribution, registration. And that burden was tested for KJ in the most profound way.
Our sources detail just an absolute devastation. The mid-release loss of her manager and very close friend, Ed Contreras, to COVID. It's impossible to overstate the personal and professional void that creates, especially when you are in the thick of a release cycle.
And that tragic loss left a vacuum that the industry, it immediately tried to exploit.
Yes. Our notes are explicit about what happened next. Attempts were made to withhold her work, to control her assets. She was plunged into these unforeseen legal battles, all while grieving her closest collaborator.
That is just a staggering trial by fire. I mean, most artists would have crumbled. Maybe signed away control just to make the problems go away.
But instead, she had to pivot overnight. She became her own executive, learning the intricacies of proper licensing and registration just to protect the work that was already out there.
And maybe we should pause here just for a second to define the stakes for you. We keep saying ownership and licensing. For an independent artist, this primarily means retaining ownership of your masters, the actual recordings, and your publishing.
The publishing being the underlying song rights. The composition, if she had lost control of those, she wouldn't just lose royalties. She would lose creative control over how her music is used forever.
So this wasn't just a legal headache. She was fighting for the sovereignty of her entire career.
And what's fascinating is that these experiences, they didn't lead to cynicism. They reinforced her commitment, complete integrity, complete ownership. She turned this devastation into a foundational business strength.
That transformation is the essence of that outlaw spirit we see referenced in her work. She learned the system through painful, direct confrontation.
Yeah.
It wasn't that avoiding the business, it was about mastering it. This period really shaped her into a leader.
Right, not just a performer, and it defined the mission of her future label.
It makes complete sense. The kind of person forced to fight that hard for their own work is never going to compromise on authenticity again. That resilience, it wasn't just foundational for her business. It poured directly into the raw honesty of her songwriting, which leads us right to the sound itself.
Yes. Her artistry really takes flight when you consider the production. It all begins with her vocal style. She's classically trained, which gives her this massive range, incredible control.
But she applies that training in a way that is just completely unbound by genre.
Completely. And her songwriting process is almost as disciplined, yet it's entirely instinctive. She's not, mapping chords on a guitar. The lyrics and melody, they just arrive simultaneously, driven by a raw emotional impulse.
The result is music that our sources describe perfectly as lived in rather than manufactured. It hits you immediately.
It connects directly to the historical influences she pulls from. Our notes highlight this deep narrative edge pulled from history, the true outlaw spirit, that defiance against the establishment, and from nature, from her background in the equestrian world.
I find that equestrian reference so intriguing. You rarely, if ever, associate the discipline and kinetic energy of the horse world with high-energy electronic production.
But it suggests this profound, grounded connection to controlled power, to dramatic motion, and that absolutely informs the structure of her tracks. It's the perfect analogy for bridging the natural world of country and the synthetic world of EDM.
It creates a fascinating dynamic tension. The country element brings the story, the narrative clarity.
And the EDM provides that explosive release. This is where her stage name, KJ, really delivers on that title, Queen of the Drop.
Okay, let's get technical for a moment because this is where it's worth digging in. What specifically defines her drop?
It's the fusion of her vocal capability with very sophisticated sound design. In EDM, the drop is the payoff after a huge buildup. For KJ, the buildup is often layered with her explosive vocals. Sometimes they're highly compressed, or they use this rapid-fire phrasing that creates a sense of overwhelming pressure.
And then when the drop hits?
When the true drop hits, she releases that vocal energy at the exact same time as the bass line. So it's not just a beat change. It's a sudden, euphoric release of the emotional tension that her classically trained voice built up during the breakdown.
So she's using her voice not just to deliver lyrics, but as a textural structural element.
Yeah.
A sound design tool that can stand up against these massive electronic bass lines.
Precisely. And that's how she moves so seamlessly between her identities. She can dial back the synthetic stuff and lean into Catherine Jackie, focusing on the story, or lean into KJ, where the story is delivered with maximum sonic impact.
That dual identity isn't a marketing gimmick. It's just two different output settings for the same core storyteller. And that fusion paid off commercially in a huge way.
It really did.
Let's talk about the 2025 breakout collaboration, Tragedy, with the producer Mr. Mig. That track peaked at number 7 on iTunes, which proves this hybrid has mass appeal.
And collaborating with a producer like Mr. Mig, who is known for his ability to craft these nostalgic house sounds with a modern polish, well, that gave her instant credibility in the dance community. Tragedy was praised for hitting that exact sweet spot. It had a throwback feel, but KJ's vocal depth gave it an anchor that kept it from sounding purely retro.
And crucially, that success is funding her mission, not some corporation. Everything she creates runs through her independent label, Young Outlaw Music, YOM LLC.
That name is more than just a defiant statement. It's the legal and operational foundation. It ensures she retains the creative and financial control she fought so hard for.
And the output just confirms her focus. She's currently sitting on an astonishing catalog of more than 30 unreleased songs.
Yeah, that's a testament to the fact that all that resilience, those legal battles, it all translated into incredible creative focus, a necessity when you are truly running every single aspect of the business.
So with all that music in the vault, what's the ultimate goal? What is the major push for 2026 that YOM LLC is building toward?
The ultimate aspiration is to take that massive studio sound and translate it into a physical, immersive live experience. She wants to tour with a full live band.
That's a huge, challenging pivot. Blending the tight synthetic control of electronic music with the human power of live instruments.
It requires complex orchestration, but it makes complete sense for an artist whose signature is that explosive, classically trained voice. A live band lets her maximize the drama of the performance, giving those builds and drops an organic physical weight the audience can really feel.
And beyond her own spotlight, her experience navigating all that industry chaos has instilled a deep commitment to supporting others.
She is determined to help other independent artists find their footing and avoid the pitfalls she encountered. She's advocating for transparency in an industry that, as we discussed, often lacks it.
That mission of protection and empowerment is perfectly encapsulated in her upcoming New Year's anthem. The track, Out with the Old, is described as forward-moving, unapologetic, and completely rooted in reinvention. It's the sonic embodiment of her survival philosophy.
This artist spotlight really reveals that KJ isn't just trying to find a market niche. She's following a deep personal calling. By bringing the storytelling depth of country and the physical intensity of EDM together, she's inviting listeners who are ready to move, both emotionally and physically, to join her on this journey.
She's positioned to be one of the most compelling figures to watch intensely throughout 2026. Her unique synthesis of historical influence, narrative strength, and sophisticated electronic production is really defining the blueprint for the next generation of truly independent music.
Absolutely. We've analyzed her journey from that emotional bedrock of singing on the PCH to the devastating legal battles that forged her leadership. So given the extreme costs and challenges she faced, both personal and professional, what does KJ's unwavering commitment to full ownership and integrity tell you about the true meaning of being an outlaw artist in the modern creative industry? Is the real outlaw the one who masters the system? We'll leave that thought with you.